gave her everything, your time, your energy, your love. Then one day, she vanished. No texts, no calls, nothing. And you're left asking yourself the one question that's eating you alive. Why would a woman who said she loves me suddenly treat me like I don't exist? You're not crazy for feeling confused. You're not weak for missing her. You're human. And today, I'm building something every man who's ever felt abandoned must own. The Stoic Relationship Blueprint ebook. It drops in just a few days. Miss it, and this cycle will haunt you. If you're tired of feeling powerless when she pulls away, this video will change everything. The truth I'm about to share isn't just harsh. It's the brutal reality most men ignore. And it will transform you if you have the courage to listen until the end. Here's why she ignores you when she's deeply in love with you. Number 1, her silence is a test, not rejection. What if I told you that every time she steps back, she's actually placing you in front of a mirror you've avoided your entire life? The mirror that shows the unfiltered version of yourself without distraction, without applause, without validation. And in that solitude, she's not disappearing to punish you, but to observe whether you crumble without her praise or rise with your own certainty. You see, most men confuse attention with affection, and when that attention is withheld, they spiral into neediness. They look for signs, they dissect every message, every breath, every pause, hoping to find reassurance. But what they fail to understand is that she's drawn to the man who can sit in that pause and not beg for the next sentence, who can remain still, focused, undisturbed, whose energy is unmoved by the pull of uncertainty. A man who understands that power is not in how loud he reacts, but in how calm he remains. Because when you embody the presence that no longer asks, "The love of my life, do you still love me?" and instead affirms, "I love myself enough to walk if I must," you transcend the game. Think about the last time she pulled away. Did you chase or did you rise? Did you try to explain yourself into closeness, or did you close the space between your doubt and your confidence by becoming a version of yourself that couldn't be ignored? She's not confused. She's calculating. She wants to know if the man in front of her can carry his name without needing hers beside it. Because when you stop needing her to stay, she starts wondering what's strong enough to make you let go. She will test the stillness you claim to own. She will delay responses, change patterns, create space not because she's cruel, but because she wants to feel whether your character holds when convenience fades. Picture this. You're sitting at home, her message still unread after hours, and your chest tightens, your thoughts spiral, and you want to reach out to say something that keeps the thread alive. But what if you didn't? What if in that exact moment you closed the app, stood up, and got to work? Not to distract, but to re-establish your frame, your mission, your dominance over self. In that action, you teach her something no message ever could, that your value doesn't decrease when her availability does. That is Stoic masculinity in motion, anchored, mission-led, emotionally self-regulated. And as one great thinker once said, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. So, revoke it. Revoke the habit of overthinking her pauses. Revoke the belief that connection means constant access. Revoke the assumption that love must always be loud. Instead, become the man who can vanish into his mission and return more magnetic. Women don't want to drag you forward. They want to be pulled toward a man so certain in who he is, she feels safe surrendering her edges. She will never say it directly, but she watches every reaction, every scroll, every double text, every time you pause your day to check her energy instead of investing in your own. Stop pausing for people who haven't earned that power. Start becoming the force that redefines what power looks like to her. If she's not calling, don't call. If she's distant, don't fill the gap with noise. Fill it with results, with elevation, with so much presence that your absence becomes a mystery she can't ignore. There's a story of a man who once stopped all chasing after he noticed that the more he pursued her during her distance, the less of her he got. But when he focused on crafting a life so rich in discipline, wealth, and purpose that his time became sacred, she began to reappear, not because he reached out, but because she could feel that his energy no longer reached for her. That's not arrogance, it's alignment. That's not punishment, it's preservation. Can you become that man? Can you feel her withdrawal and still walk into your purpose like nothing shook? Can you let go of the obsession to decode her and begin decoding yourself? What scares her isn't your strength, it's your inconsistency. What turns her away isn't your masculinity, it's your instability. The truth is, she already saw potential in you. She just needs to know if it's real or romanticized, and only your reaction to her distance will answer that. Think about the most powerful men in history. Did they beg to be noticed? Did they campaign for emotional security? Or did they build empires that magnetized loyalty, love, and devotion by who they were, not by what they gave away for free? You were not built to chase moods. You were built to regulate your own and let your consistency set the standard. And when she sees that you can be still, not because you're waiting, but because you've anchored yourself, she'll see you differently, not just as someone she once dated, but as someone she can trust with her uncertainty, because you've mastered your own. Don't fear her step back. Use it as the space you needed to become undeniable. Ask yourself right now, if she never texted again, would your value decrease or would your progress increase? Would your heart sink or would your standards rise? This is the moment where your masculinity is either defined by her mood or shaped by your mindset. And you get to choose. Become the man who doesn't need to be chased because everything about his life is already moving forward. Be that man, not for her return, but for your evolution. Because the more you grow, the more you glow. And in that glow, she won't remember your words. She'll remember the man who didn't fold. The one who, in the middle of emotional distance, chose discipline over desperation. That's the man she respects. That's the man she can't forget. And that's the man you're becoming. Number 2, you gave her emotional control. The moment you made her approval the thermostat of your self-worth, you unknowingly surrendered every ounce of control you once had. Not through your words, but through subtle choices, like canceling a workout to reply faster, like second-guessing your tone after every message, like rearranging your life around hers, because some part of you believed that pleasing her guaranteed permanence. But in truth, all you did was teach her that your masculinity bends for affection, that your emotional center is negotiable, and that her mood now governs your reality. And no matter how romantic that might feel in the moment, it is the very soil where resentment, imbalance, and emotional detachment grow. Because every time you relinquish the leadership of your emotional boundaries, you kill the polarity that originally attracted her to you. Ask yourself, when did you start reacting instead of deciding? When did your schedule become an extension of her unpredictability? When did your identity shrink down to her comfort? A woman may smile at your attentiveness, but she subconsciously questions the man who abandons his structure to be more available, and that questioning isn't rooted in cruelty, it's rooted in biology, in a deep evolutionary need to feel that the man she's with can lead himself when she cannot. Because if you crumble under the weight of needing her emotional cues to feel strong, how can she trust you to lead through life's real storms? You must reclaim the reins of your emotional house and rebuild the inner leadership you gave away. That means making decisions not to impress her, but to impress your future. That means building a schedule so purposeful that even love has to wait for your discipline. That means remembering that the man who loses himself to gain her heart will soon lose both. She tests for this quietly, not through arguments, but through observation. How you shift when she's less responsive, how quickly you chase when she pulls back, how fast you forget your values when you're afraid to lose her. And every time you do, you show her that her attention is your anchor, and no woman wants to be responsible for a man's stability, because what excites her is the man whose worth isn't adjusted by her emotions, the man who, even in the face of her coldness, remains measured, intentional, and unshaken. That's the man who builds empires, not just relationships, and when she sees that you are no longer altered by her availability, she begins to feel safe, not because you're trying to create safety, but because your consistency commands it. You are not here to regulate her peace, you are here to protect yours, and from that overflow, she feels the masculine certainty that allows her to soften, to open, to return, not because she was convinced, but because she remembered what it feels like to be with a man who leads himself first. Number 3, she feels your desperation. She doesn't need to read your diary to know you're desperate. She feels it the moment your energy shifts from grounded to seeking, from intentional to reactive, and it shows up in how you lean into conversations too heavily, how you double back on your words to be more agreeable, how you compromise your values to gain closeness. But what she truly wants to feel isn't your devotion. It's your decisiveness, your unwavering commitment to self-respect that says, even if you walk away, I won't lose myself. And that unshakable clarity is what makes her heart turn, not the 100 compliments or constant availability. When you stop grasping and start growing, your presence evolves into something rare, something so rare she can't help but reevaluate everything she thought she knew about you. Picture this: you're texting her and the responses slow down, the energy drops, and your instinct is to fill the gap, to call, to send more messages, to reignite something that's fading. But instead, what if you paused, not to wait, but to build, to use that discomfort as the fire to push harder in your craft, your fitness, your mind? What if instead of asking why she's pulling back, you asked why you gave her so much of your identity to begin with? That discomfort isn't a punishment. It's a compass showing you exactly where you need to lead yourself. Because desperation doesn't just show up in messages, it shows up in how much of your self-esteem is tied to her response. The man who is whole without her will always be more magnetic than the man who needs her to feel complete. And you know this because you've seen it. How she reacted when you were at your most focused, most unavailable, most in flow. And compare that to when you were emotionally chasing, subtly begging, energetically off-center. She may have smiled during both, but only one version of you left an imprint. And it wasn't the one who tried harder. It was the one who didn't have to. The one who made progress so undeniable, she had to wonder what was more important than her. Don't fall for the lie that proving your value to her makes her stay. Proving your value to yourself makes you unignorable, and the man who can walk away with peace in his eyes and power in his stride is the man she never truly forgets, because he carries a truth that echoes louder than any words. I am enough with or without you, and that is the energy that not only attracts love, but holds it with gravity, not grip. Number 4, she's waiting to feel your gravity. The gravitational pull you once had didn't come from trying harder to impress her. It came from the quiet dominance of being a man who had a life so full, so directed, so aligned with purpose that anyone entering it had to earn their place. And somewhere along the way, you forgot that. Forgot that she was first drawn to your trajectory, not your attention, to your mission, not your messages, and now you're wondering why her desire faded. But ask yourself, when did your goals take a back seat to her affection? When did you become available at all hours, flexible with your priorities, more invested in proving loyalty than protecting purpose? Because the man who knows who he is never tries to be convenient. He makes his presence felt by the weight of his direction, by the certainty of his focus, and in that certainty, she feels safe to be feminine, to relax, to trust that his love isn't dependency but overflow. And if you want to restore that polarity, stop fighting for her attention and start becoming the center of your own gravity again. Imagine you're building a home on a mountain. Would you leave the foundation every time the weather shifted? Or would you keep building through it because you trust the blueprint and the mountain beneath you? That's what your life must be, anchored in depth, unmoved by temporary emotion, led by something larger than lust. And when she sees that you are no longer reaching for her hand to steady yourself, but planting your feet with intention, she'll notice. Not because you said anything, but because the tension in your need dissolved into the certainty of your becoming. The truth is, most men lose attraction not from weakness, but from self-forgetting, from trading the fire that built their confidence for the comfort of closeness. And while the warmth might feel good at first, it is the fire that forged you that she trusted. And once it dims, so does the pull that made her stay. Every time you cancel your priorities to accommodate her unpredictability, you shrink your signal. Every time you pause your growth to secure her reassurance, you dull your power. And it's only when you stop chasing balance and start choosing dominance over distraction that she begins to feel again what first moved her, the pull of your path, the intensity of your focus, the magnetism of a man who has somewhere to go, whether she walks beside him or not. Think back to the version of yourself who didn't wait for permission to build, who trained harder, spoke less, achieved more. He didn't need constant check-ins. He didn't explain his schedule. He didn't beg for inclusion. He led, he moved. And that movement created the polarity she craved, not through words but through momentum. And the deeper truth is this: when a man loses his mission, he loses his edge. And when he loses his edge, he becomes emotionally forgettable. Not because he lacks value, but because he forgot how to hold it. So if you want her to feel again, stop asking her to respond and start becoming undeniable again. Turn your mornings into mastery, your goals into gospel, your boundaries into law, and from that structure, she will feel again what no conversation can recreate, the undeniable truth that real men don't cling, they climb. Number 5. She needs to know you don't flinch. She doesn't need a man who reacts every time the temperature of the relationship changes. She needs a man who knows his own climate, whose emotional weather remains steady, who doesn't flinch when affection cools or panic when engagement wanes. And you prove that not by suppressing your truth, but by strengthening your presence, by embodying calm without needing to declare it, by speaking less and moving with direction, because every time you resist the urge to explain, to justify, to pull her back when she's distant, you show her that your center is internal, not circumstantial. And that kind of consistency isn't just respected, it's desired, because it tells her that you are capable of guiding not just yourself, but anyone close to you. And that is the foundation of trust, of attraction, of emotional safety, not created through effort, but through essence, through mastering the pause, holding your truth, and remaining grounded even when your emotions try to pull you off course. Picture the man who, after an emotional shift, continues with his plans. He doesn't send a paragraph. He doesn't dramatize absence. He moves with calm clarity, and not because he's suppressing how he feels, but because he's mastered the art of feeling deeply without reacting destructively. And that's what makes her return not just with presence but with respect, because a man who doesn't flinch tells her that she is free to come and go, but his standards remain immovable. Ask yourself honestly, do you trust yourself when things go quiet, or do you reach for her to stabilize your sense of being? Because the truth is, if your self-worth shrinks with her absence, then your identity isn't sovereign. It's leased through her availability, and no woman wants to carry that emotional weight, not long-term, not when she's looking for someone to trust with her vulnerability. Your stillness must be earned, not acted. Your calm must be cultivated, not copied. And you build it by facing those moments of absence and choosing to respond with structure, not reaction, to show her that while she might affect your emotions, she will never dictate your direction. And from that space of clarity, you do what only high-value men do. You stay grounded without acting indifferent. You remain kind without being a doormat. You speak truth without pleading for understanding, and in doing so, you show her the rarest masculine energy in today's world, emotional authority. This is the man who leads not through pressure, but presence, who commands space not through dominance, but through depth. And when she sees that you're not rushing to fill the space she created, she begins to see that you are exactly the kind of man she can trust to lead her somewhere real, not because you demanded it, but because you proved it when you didn't flinch. Number 6. If you chase, you become repelling. Chasing her doesn't prove your love. It reveals your void, the space inside you that hasn't yet learned that love given freely without self-respect becomes weakness. And while desperation may come dressed as passion, it is always felt as pressure, and pressure never pulls someone closer. It pushes them away, slowly at first, until your presence no longer feels safe, but suffocating, and in that space, what she once admired in you starts to feel heavy, because what draws a woman is not the man who floods her world, but the one who brings clarity to it, not the man who validates himself through her presence, but the one who adds to her peace without needing to be her reason for existing. Think about the last time she grew distant. How did you respond? Did you ask yourself where your strength went? Or did you rush to close a gap she needed to feel, to remember what you offer? The truth is, every time you chase, you erase mystery, and with it, attraction, because she doesn't want a man who fits in her pocket. She wants a man whose presence stretches her mind, whose calm makes her feel safe, not smothered. And when you beg for her closeness, she starts wondering why it's so easy to get from you what's supposed to be earned, and anything that comes too easy is never truly valued. So if you want to stop being the man she tolerates and start being the man she treasures, stop proving and start pruning. Prune the habits that made you predictable. Prune the need to be seen to feel secure. Prune the emotional dependency that disguises itself as commitment. And what will be left is the version of you that she's secretly hoping you'll become. Grounded, unshaken, intentional. She wants to feel like you could walk away, not because you don't care, but because you've chosen not to abandon yourself in pursuit of her approval. And in that choice, she remembers who you are. Not the man who fell for her, but the man she fell for. It's not about being cold. It's about being composed, and in that composure, she sees the strength that words could never carry, because she doesn't need explanations. She needs demonstration. Can you stay in your power when hers is unclear? Can you continue your discipline when her affection fades? Can you choose self-respect when it's easier to reach out? Because if the answer is no, you don't need her. You need alignment, you need practice, you need space from the need to be needed, and only then can you return as the man whose presence commands, not begs, whose energy calms, not craves. And the moment you embrace the truth that being unavailable for nonsense is more attractive than being available for validation, you'll stop chasing completely, not from anger, but from evolution, because the man you're becoming doesn't have time to prove he's worthy of love. He's too busy becoming love itself. Number 7, you're the prize, let her chase you. You are the prize, not because you have more money, more looks, more lines, but because you've done the work, built the discipline, earned your strength, and a man who walks in the world with that certainty doesn't ask for attention. He receives it, not by force, but by alignment, because when your mind is rooted, your energy speaks before you do, and when your life is driven by purpose rather than persuasion, she feels it in ways words can't articulate. So stop chasing her love and start becoming the man whose very existence is a standard she must meet if she wants to join your reality. And that shift doesn't require noise. It requires alignment, repetition, and focus that never apologizes for its ambition. Visualize the man who wakes up before the world stirs, who builds his body like a temple, who sharpens his mind like a weapon, who treats his time like treasure, who only allows people into his space that align with his values. And you'll see the kind of man she wants to follow, not because he demands loyalty, but because his life demands attention. And when you embody that man, she won't walk away. She'll wonder why she ever made you wait. This isn't arrogance, it's awareness. And awareness is the foundation of power, and power isn't loud. It's still, it's present, it's selective. And when she realizes you are no longer trying to convince her of your worth, she'll start evaluating her own. Because men who know they are the prize never panic when tested. They observe, they adjust, they grow, and most importantly, they remain grounded. That's the kind of energy that reshapes dynamics, because women don't chase men who ask for chances. They chase men who create standards. And every time you withhold validation until it's earned, every time you protect your energy from casual access, every time you walk away from what doesn't honor your growth, you build the version of yourself that doesn't just attract quality, it repels nonsense. And the more you embrace that truth, the less you'll feel the need to fix broken dynamics, because you'll realize that the most powerful position a man can take in any connection is the one where his peace doesn't flinch, his vision doesn't blur, and his standard doesn't bend. So from this day forward, become that man, not for her return, not for revenge, not to prove anything, but because the man who walks like a prize eventually forgets what chasing even feels like. If you've felt every word of this message, if it echoed what you've lived through in the dark, in your lowest moments, in those quiet hours where you questioned your worth because someone you loved treated you like you were invisible, then this is your turning point. Because no one teaches us how to be men who lead with presence. No one teaches us how to deal with the pain of emotional withdrawal, the agony of being good to her and still not being enough. No one gives us the tools to navigate relationships without losing our sense of self in the process. Society tells you to toughen up, be quiet, move on. But what you really needed was the blueprint. And that's exactly what I've created, the Stoic Relationship Blueprint, a step-by-step guide built from timeless Stoic wisdom, emotional discipline, and psychological clarity, designed to help you reclaim your power in love, in life, and within yourself. It's not just a book. It's the manual you've never had but always needed, and it's dropping in just a few days. But this isn't going to be available forever. We're capping the number of sales, not because of hype, but because I want this in the hands of the men who are truly ready to rise. The ones who aren't looking for temporary fixes, but for permanent transformation. When it's gone, it's gone. And trust me, you do not want to miss this. You don't want to watch another year go by repeating the same patterns, questioning your worth, chasing the wrong people, and wondering why you still feel empty inside. This is your shot to rewrite your story, so don't waste it. Comment "Blueprint" below if you're ready to completely transform your relationships and your life for good. Like this video, share it with every man who needs this truth, and subscribe to the channel if you want more raw, real, and life-changing insight that no one else is willing to give.